You've been making one mistake your entire life. And the worst part? You don't even know you're making it. You think intelligence is about knowing more, reading more, studying harder. You think the smartest person in the room is the one with the most answers. But here's the truth they never taught you: the most dangerous minds on this planet don't operate like that. They think differently. They see differently. And because of that, they move through the world in a way that most people can't explain and can't defend against. While you've been trying to be smarter, you've been playing the wrong game entirely. The average person spends their life collecting information but never understanding power. They talk when they should be silent. They react when they should be still. They chase approval from people who secretly respect no one. They make decisions based on how things feel right now without ever asking what happens next. And every single one of these habits that feel completely normal, is quietly keeping them weak. The most dangerous people in the world don't think the way normal people think. They've learned a different set of rules. Rules that aren't taught in school. Rules that aren't posted on motivational pages. Rules that only reveal themselves to those paying close enough attention to human nature. What you're about to hear isn't motivation. It isn't advice. It's a map of how power actually works, how people actually behave, and how the sharpest minds actually operate underneath the surface. By the end of this video, you'll never see people the same way again. Most people are handing their power away every single day, and they do it with their mouths. There is a deep psychological urge inside most people to prove themselves, to be seen as knowledgeable, to be understood, to be respected. And because of that urge, they talk, they explain themselves, they share their plans, they reveal their thinking, they tell you what they know the moment they know it. And every time they do, they lose. Here's what most people don't realize: information is currency. And the moment you spend it, it's gone. When you tell someone everything you know, you hand them the ability to predict you, to counter you, to underestimate or overestimate you strategically. You eliminate your own mystery. Mystery is leverage. The moment someone can fully read you, they stop fearing what you might do next, and fear of the unknown is one of the oldest and most powerful forces in human social dynamics. But it gets deeper. When you over-explain yourself, you're not just revealing information. You're revealing insecurity. You're signaling that you need people to understand you, to validate you, to agree with you. And that need, that hunger for understanding, telegraphs weakness to anyone who knows how to read it. The most powerful figures in history were never fully readable. They moved with a deliberate opacity, not because they had nothing to say, but because they understood that restraint creates gravity. Silence creates presence. Ambiguity creates power. Think about the person in any room who speaks the least. Pay attention to them next time. There's a reason people lean in when they finally do speak. There's a reason they seem to carry more weight. It's not because they know more. It's because they've withheld enough to make you wonder. Powerful people don't silence themselves because they're afraid. They do it because they've learned that the less you reveal, the more people project onto you, and most of the time, what they project is more impressive than the truth anyway. Stop performing your intelligence. Let it work in the dark. The smartest person in the room usually says the least. Almost nobody notices this, but most people are walking through life nearly blind. They're not paying attention. Not really. They're too busy talking, too busy thinking about what they're going to say next, too busy managing their own image to actually observe what's happening in front of them. And because of that, they miss everything important. Here's the crazy part. Every person you meet is constantly broadcasting information about who they are, what they want, what they fear, and what they'll do next. Their body language, their word choices, their reactions, what they laugh at, what makes them go quiet, all of it is data. And almost no one is collecting it. Conversation is performance. Observation is intelligence. When you're talking, you're focused on yourself. When you're watching, you're learning about everyone else. The most strategically intelligent people understand that a single conversation observed carefully is worth more than 100 conversations had carelessly. Think about how a predator moves. It doesn't announce itself, it watches first. It studies patterns, it waits. And when it finally acts, it acts with precision because it has already done the work of understanding. That kind of awareness, that cold, patient attentiveness, is one of the rarest and most powerful cognitive tools a human being can develop. Pay attention to what people do when they think no one is watching. Pay attention to who they become when there's nothing to gain. Pay attention to the gap between what someone says and how they actually behave, because that gap will tell you everything about who you're actually dealing with. Most people reveal their true character not in their best moments, but in their smallest ones. The way they treat someone with no power over them, the way they react to being corrected, the way their energy shifts when they think the conversation is over. You can learn more about a person in 10 minutes of real observation than in 10 hours of conversation. The ones who master this move through social environments like they have a cheat code. Because they do. Stop talking so much. Start watching more. The room is full of information. Almost nobody is paying attention. Pay attention because this is where things become dangerous. Most people are slaves to their emotions without knowing it. They think they're making decisions. They're not. They're reacting. They feel anxious and they avoid. They feel angry and they attack. They feel insecure and they overcompensate. They feel excited and they move too fast. Their entire life, their relationships, their choices, their outcomes is being quietly dictated by whichever feeling arrived loudest that morning. And they call it instinct. They call it passion. Some of them even call it authenticity. Here's the truth. Emotion is information. It is not instruction. When you feel anger rising, that anger is telling you something. Something feels threatening. Something feels unjust. That's useful data. But the moment you let that anger make your decisions, you've handed control of your life to a feeling, and feelings are not strategists. The most emotionally dangerous people on earth are not the ones who feel the most. They're the ones who feel deeply and move slowly. They experience the full weight of an emotion and then pause before they let it translate into action. That pause, that single moment of space between stimulus and response, is where all real power lies. Think about every situation you've ever made worse by reacting too fast. The message you sent in anger. The decision you made in panic. The words you said in a moment of pride that burned something you couldn't rebuild. Every single one of those outcomes happened because you let emotion become instruction instead of information. Here's what most people don't realize. The people who seem cold, who seem calculated, who seem unmoved in situations that would send others spiraling, they're not feeling less. They've simply learned to use their emotions as a compass without letting them become the wheel. Emotional control is not suppression, it's mastery. There's a difference between a person who buries their feelings and a person who reads their feelings clearly and chooses how to respond. One is avoidance, the other is power. When you stop reacting automatically, something shifts. People stop being able to manipulate you through provocation. They can't anger you into revealing yourself. They can't flatter you into lowering your guard. They can't pressure you into a decision before you're ready. You become unpredictable in the most dangerous way, not because you're unstable, but because you're unreadable. The moment you master your internal world, the external world loses its leverage over you. Emotion is a messenger. Read the message. Then decide how you respond. And this is where things become dangerous. Every time someone talks too much, they hand you a confession. Most people don't realize that excessive talking is almost always a symptom of something. Insecurity, anxiety, a need for validation, a hidden agenda they're trying to cover. And when they talk, they leak. They say more than they intended. They contradict themselves. They reveal what they care about, what they're afraid of, and where they're vulnerable, all while thinking they're making a strong impression. Watch closely the next time someone talks at length without being asked. There's almost always something underneath it. A fear of silence. A fear of being misunderstood. A fear of being seen as less than they want you to believe they are. Over-explanation is almost always compensation. Here's the psychological reality. When people feel secure, they don't need to fill space. They're comfortable being incomplete in your eyes because they don't need your validation to feel whole. But when someone launches into a long justification you didn't ask for, when someone repeats their point 3 times when once was enough, when someone can't sit in silence without making it awkward, that's exposure. And if you know how to read it, it's intelligence. The strategically aware person learns to say very little and ask very little, and then simply lets people fill the silence, because people will fill it, and what they fill it with tells you everything. Silence is pressure. Most people crack under it instantly, and when they crack, they talk. And when they talk unguarded, they reveal the truth about who they are, what they want, and what you can expect from them. Stop filling silence. Start reading it. The person who controls the silence controls the conversation. Almost nobody wants to admit this one because it exposes a deeply uncomfortable insecurity. Most people spend enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy managing how others see them. They adjust what they say, how they dress, what opinions they voice, which achievements they mention, all to maintain approval from a group that is mostly not paying attention and mostly not worth the performance anyway. And here's what that constant performance costs them: authenticity, decision-making clarity, time, energy, and eventually self-respect. The need to be liked by everyone is the need to be nobody in particular. Because the moment you have actual opinions, actual standards, actual direction, you will naturally repel certain people. That's not failure, that's filtering. The most powerful individuals in any environment are not the most liked. They're the most defined. People know what they stand for, what they won't tolerate, and where they're going. Trying to maintain everyone's approval forces you into contradiction. You become agreeable to the wrong people. You soften positions that should be firm. You laugh at things you don't find funny. You tolerate disrespect and reframe it as maturity. And slowly, over time, you begin to disappear not physically, but in the way that matters. Your identity bleeds out through the edges trying to accommodate everyone else. Here's what most people don't realize. People don't deeply respect those they fully approve of. Respect is often the result of someone holding a line you couldn't hold, believing something you weren't brave enough to believe, walking away from something you would have tolerated. When someone stops seeking your approval, something primal activates. Suddenly they become more interesting, more magnetic, more credible. The moment you stop needing everyone to like you, you start becoming someone worth actually respecting. Not everyone is supposed to be in your corner. The right people will be. Pay attention because this changes everything. Most people stay in situations they should have left years ago. Bad relationships, dead environments, conversations that drain them. Opportunities that have already expired. They stay not because staying serves them, but because leaving feels dangerous. Leaving feels like loss. Here's the truth. The ability to walk away from something is one of the most powerful positions a human being can occupy. Think about any negotiation, any social dynamic, any relationship, any deal, any interaction, and ask yourself who holds the leverage. The answer is almost always the person with the most credible option to leave. Not the most aggressive person, not the loudest person, not the person with the best argument, the person who can walk away and be genuinely fine. Dependency is the root of almost all powerlessness. When you need something from someone, their approval, their money, their validation, their presence, they own a piece of your behavior. You start softening truths. You start tolerating things you shouldn't. You start making yourself smaller to preserve access to something that may not even be serving you anymore. The most dangerous people to cross are not the most aggressive. They're the most detached, not emotionally empty, detached from outcome. They want things, but they don't need things, and that distinction is everything. Need makes you predictable. Detachment makes you dangerous. Build your life in a way that reduces hard dependencies. Develop skills that are portable. Build resources that are yours alone. Cultivate your own internal world so richly that no single external thing holds absolute power over your peace. Because the moment you can genuinely walk away, and mean it, is the moment things start shifting in your favor without you having to force them. You never truly own your decisions until you're willing to lose the thing you're deciding about. Here's what most people don't realize, and it will rewrite how you see almost every human behavior you've ever been confused by. People do not primarily act based on values. They do not primarily act based on logic, loyalty, or love. They act based on incentives. Every single time, if you look closely enough, there is something to gain or something to lose driving the behavior. This isn't cynicism. This is clarity. When you understand what someone stands to gain, financially, socially, emotionally, in status or security, their behavior stops being mysterious. The colleague who undermines you subtly makes sense. The friend who only shows up in your highs makes sense. The person who changes their opinion the moment power shifts in the room makes sense. Remove the noise of their words and look at the structure of their incentives. The truth will be right there. And this applies to yourself as much as anyone. The most honest thing you can do is audit your own incentives. Why do you really want what you want? Who are you really performing for? What are you actually optimizing for beneath the story you tell yourself? Because until you see your own incentives clearly, you can't fully trust your own decisions. People who understand incentives stop being surprised by betrayal. They stop being blindsided by shifts in loyalty. They stop misreading political behavior as personal malice. They see the structure underneath human action, and because they see it, they can work with it, around it, or against it, depending on what the situation requires. Never underestimate incentives. Never assume someone is acting against their interest. Look harder until you find the interest you missed. When you understand what people are optimizing for, you understand everything. And this is the last one, and it is the deepest one. Most people think one move ahead. That's not thinking. That's reacting with extra steps. The sharpest minds, the ones who seem to be playing a different game entirely, have trained themselves to think in second and third order consequences. Not just what happens next, but what happens after what happens next. Not just the immediate result of a decision, but the downstream effects that ripple outward over weeks, months, and years. Every decision you make sets off a chain of consequences that most people never trace past the first link. You take the comfortable option now and feel relief, but you don't ask what that comfort costs you in 6 months. You react impulsively to a provocation and feel righteous, but you don't trace what that reaction does to your reputation, your relationships, your leverage. You avoid the hard conversation and feel peaceful for a week, but you don't follow the thread to the resentment it builds, the problem it allows to grow, the version of yourself it slowly erodes. Second-order thinking is what separates people who are smart from people who are dangerously smart. It is the cognitive discipline of asking, and then what? And then what after that? And what kind of person does this choice make me over time? This is how powerful people see the board. Not as it is right now, but as it will be in 3 moves. They make decisions that look strange, even weak in the short term, because they're optimizing for an outcome most people can't see yet. Train yourself to pause before any significant decision and simply ask, what are the second-order consequences of this? Who does this make me? Where does this lead? What am I trading away that I'm not accounting for right now? Play the long game. Most people won't. Which means the board is less crowded than you think at the level where the real moves are made. You came into this video thinking about intelligence differently than you'll leave it. You now understand that real power is not about knowing more, it's about revealing less. It's not about talking louder, it's about observing more deeply. It's not about feeling nothing, it's about letting your emotions inform you without controlling you. You understand that people expose themselves when they talk too much. That seeking everyone's approval is a slow form of self-destruction. That the ability to walk away is leverage and dependency is its opposite. That incentives explain almost every human behavior that ever confused you, and that the most dangerous thinkers on earth don't just ask what happens next, they ask what happens after that. And after that, until they're playing a game most people don't even know exists. You no longer think like most people, you see the game now. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's not a warning, that's the point. If this shifted something in how you think, drop "I think differently" in the comments. Not for me, for yourself. As a marker, a line between who you were before you watched this and who you're becoming. Like this video if it hit. Subscribe if you want more of this. The next video goes even deeper.